Greetings, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday, staying safe and drinking water. Welcome to my podcast, episode 3, where I read K-pop fan fiction. This Tuesday's episode will be A Different Kind of Magic by Trist. This story is on Archive of Our Own. I will put the link below and you can read along with me or read adjoining tags if you need. This is a Kim Taehyung and Min Yoongi fic, Taeji. Super soft, no immediate horrible tags, fluff, hugs, boys kissing, stuff like that. There are 5,800 words. I probably won't be reading all 5,000 words. This will probably be part 1. Okay, let's start with A Different Kind of Magic summary, wherein Taehyung doesn't really need extra potions help, but could definitely use a hug, and Yoongi is pretty indifferent about being a tutor, but is down to hold hands. The top of the astronomy tower wasn't a place students frequented without need. It was musty and winding, the stairs steep, tall, and uneven. There were easier places to go if you wanted privacy, places that didn't require sore legs and unsettling heights. But it was just that inaccessibility that Taehyung craved at the moment, away from the bustle of the castle and the busy eyes of other students. It made his stomach drop a little to peer down over the edge of the balcony to see how tiny the sprawling grounds from his vantage point. But it was also breathtaking. The greenhouses were just specks, and he could cover the Quidditch pitch with a raised thumb, and he felt suddenly very large, overlooking it all. But then, when he looked up, he was nothing more than a speck. The sky was unobstructed from this height, thickly pin-pricked with stars and unimaginably vast. Taehyung leaned back with a sigh, probably dirtying the back of his cloak, on the dusty balcony floor, eyes wide with the night sky. The top of the astronomy tower was definitely not a place people would think Kim Taehyung frequented. He was known for being cheerful and sociable, for taking homework for students who missed class, no matter if they were close or not, for taking initiative at handling the stranger animals in care of magical creatures, and for good-naturedly ending up in detention for experimenting a little freely with homemade potions, for being a little quirky and a little too different to fit in just right, but never letting others' opinions get to him. He was not known for taking to the quieter places in the castle and mulling over too many thoughts as he stared up at the endless sky. He was not known for wrapping the ends of his cloak tightly around himself in a pathetic attempt at self-comfort and warmth, the cool air of the approaching winter heavy around him. And maybe that was the way he usually liked it, like the way he was able to choose the way others saw him as this wholly bright and happy being, how others thought they knew him so well, because who would look to further understand someone who presented themselves as an open book? But it was also so lonely sometimes, especially on nights like tonight, when the jibbing comments of his peers felt a little too real, cut a little too deep, the teasing a tad too aggressive, too personal. He suddenly wished for Jimin, the other boy's absence, feeling suddenly and overwhelmingly unfair. His brother was getting married and he'd be away till after Christmas, the affair taking an unreasonably long time. Jimin would know what to say when the thoughts in his head felt like too much, when he felt like too much. No one would guess that Taehyung was a silent crier. If you asked a random student whose only interaction with him was in class or hanging out on the grounds, they probably presumed that he cried loudly, perhaps even dramatically. Maybe they think he took great shuddering breaths and wrung his hands or hiccoughs loudly. Taehyung let a few tears make quiet tracks down his cheeks before wiping them away and picking himself off the floor. It was late, well past curfew, and his trip back to the Ravenclaw dorms was hurried and cautious. He drew the curtains around his bed as soon as he entered it, hoping he hadn't woken anyone up. It was hard to maintain his singularity the next day. His sleepless night making him snappish and angry, emotions too close to the surface. He played it off as best as he could as mere tiredness, laying his head down during breakfast and sticking his face close to his book during classes, making a show of rubbing his eyes and yawning. He had nearly made it through the day when it finally went to pieces during double potions with Hufflepuff. Taehyung didn't dislike potions. He wasn't bad at it either. It was just that following precise instructions wasn't really his thing. It's not that he didn't know it was one clockwise turn and two counterclockwise, more of the curiosity of what would happen if he stared straight down the middle. It was an exploded cauldron, an impromptu recess while Professor Slughorn cleaned the room of over-nettled boil remover, and a request to stay back after class that made it harder than ever for Taehyung to keep the tears from his eyes and the rawness from his voice. "I'm puzzled," Slughorn said, sitting nearly at his desk with his hands folded over his protruding stomach. "Your written components are always flawless, albeit a little whimsical, and I'm sure if I'd asked you to recite a potion from memory, you could do it." Another sigh. "But these practical lessons seem to always end in disaster." Taehyung shuffled from foot to foot, unsure of what to say. "I'm not going to give you detention, Mr. Kim," Slughorn said suddenly, straightening. "You won't? These experiments don't seem malicious, and your previous detentions haven't seemed to do much. But I think it's a good idea to practice outside of class." Taehyung's eyes lit up. "Supervised, of course," Slughorn added hastily. "I'll arrange for mandatory tutoring sessions with an upperclassman. We'll start with twice a week, at least until our next practical exam." He scribbled something on the paper in front of him. "Maybe one-on-one sessions will help curb your tendency to draw attention." All relief at having avoided detention was flooded with a rush of embarrassment. Cheeks burning, red in shame, Slughorn continued to talk. Something about a similar situation with a student who felt overshadowed by his sister, who was the inventor of the top-rated cleaning potion, and had herself been a student of Slughorn's, but Taehyung could barely hear him. There was blood rushing in his ear, and eyes threatening to spill, so Taehyung just stood frozen until he'd registered that the professor had stopped talking, and bolted with a hasty, "Yes, Professor," and "See you next class, Professor." There was no way to contain it once he'd left the classroom, thoughts burning through him. Is that really what Slughorn thought? That this was a ploy to get attention? To act out and show off? Did others think that as well? "Why can't I just do as I'm told?" he thought miserably. "Why can't I just do things normally?" He was walking fast, clutching his books and his head down to hide the wetness on his cheeks. He just needed to get back to his dorm, back to his bed where he could curl up and eat the last of the chocolates Jimin had sent him with his last letter, and then crash. Taehyung went sprawling, books tumbling from his hands as he collided with another body, landing hard on his backside. "Shit, are you alright?" Taehyung looked up to see who he'd knocked into, an apology already tumbling from his lips. "I'm so sorry. That was my fault. I wasn't looking in." Taehyung stopped mid-sentence, recognizing the other boy's face. Of course, it had to be Min Yoongi. 1 year above him, Slytherin, something of a genius in charm work, and known as something of an enigma around the castle. He was also the love of Taehyung's young life. Unsuccessfully trying to get over his crush on the older boy since third year, Taehyung had accepted his feelings were destined to linger for as long as he could catch a glimpse of the boy in the hallways between classes. For as long as he could see his tousled head of hair in the great hall in the morning, see him absent-mindedly chewing at the fingernail when he read, curled up in a corner in the library, see the way he always fed the owl that brought his meal a little bit of sausage before sending her out, long fingers scratching the hard to get to places at the top of her wings, and the way he paused a little as he spoke, making sure his words were careful and thought out, and his unrestrained smile when he found something truly funny. He wasn't smiling now. His face was composed, eyes narrowed a bit with worry, and Taehyung remembered that his own was red and tear-stained. "Are you okay?" Taehyung jolted forward, bending his head so his hair flopped over his puffy eyes, and scrambled for his books. "Totally fine. Don't worry. I'm so sorry. I wasn't looking where I was going, and I really should be more careful." Taehyung's hand brushed another as he reached for his charms book and snatched it back as if electrocuted. "Taehyung, right?" Yoongi said, handing him his book. Taehyung nodded, not trusting himself to speak, instead gathering the last book and rising from the floor, not quite meeting Yoongi's eye. "Let me walk you back to your dorm." "What?" Taehyung asked, startled. "You're on your way to your dorm." "Yes, but..." "So I'll walk you." It was said with finality, so Taehyung let Yoongi walk alongside him quietly till they reached the entrance to the dorm. Taehyung started, attempting a smile. "This is me." Yoongi nodded slowly, giving him a once-over, and Taehyung wondered how someone could look so exquisite with simple robes and rumpled hair. He wondered if his own eyes were still red from crying. "I messed up a potion in class," Taehyung said, breaking the silence. "I think some got in my eyes." Yoongi raised a slender eyebrow. "Really?" Taehyung gulped, and Yoongi's face softened. "You were crying." Yoongi was looking at him intently, and Taehyung was taken aback by both the directness of the statement and the way Yoongi's eyes were so focused on him, finding himself unable to lie. "I guess." Taehyung waited for a cliche "cheer up" or maybe a sarcastic remark, but Yoongi just leaned forward and brushed some of the hair from Taehyung's forehead, the younger boy's heart stuttering in his chest. "It's okay to be sad sometimes." And then when he was gone, and Taehyung was left with his heart pounding and thoughts racing. Taehyung woke up from a disorienting sleep the next morning to find that he had come to a conclusion about 3 things. He would do his damned best to show Slughorn he was not a spoiled attention pig. He wanted to both throttle German for being absent and write a 10-page letter lamenting recent events, and he could never face Min Yoongi again. All euphoria at having his longtime crush notice him was immediately snuffed out by the circumstances. In all his fantasies about Min Yoongi, he was cool and composed, flirty and confident. Yoongi was impressed by his ability to handle blast-ended scroots without getting a single eyelash singed, or maybe coincidentally passing by the potions room just as one of Taehyung's concoctions actually succeeded. He was not a blubbering emotional mess with puffy eyes and clumsy feet, so Taehyung decided it would be best to pine from afar. The universe had been trying to tell him that from the get-go, he thought miserably. He should have taken his failed confession in 4th year, where he had gathered the nerve to approach him in the spot he knew he often occupied in the library, only to stumble upon him kissing Gryffindor prefect Kim Seok-jin. Or maybe he should have taken the hint in 5th year after hearing that Yoongi was single again and persuaded Jimin to leave a bouquet of charm rosebuds on Yoongi's bed. That one almost succeeded if his charm work hadn't unraveled last minute, The rose is exploding instead of romantically blooming. Taehyung couldn't quite bring himself to reveal himself as the sender after Yoongi had to spend the night sleeping on a common room sofa till the house elves came the next morning to replace his bed. So that was that. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. I'll finish the rest on Thursday. I hope you've enjoyed this part one. I'm going to finish the rest of the story in part 2. I haven't read the story, so we're both reading it at the same time together. I'm enjoying it. I think it's cute, minus a couple of typos or miswords. But yeah, this is really cute so far. I really hope it ends cute, but it said fluff, so it's got to end cute. Anyways, that's it for today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or beginning of your day. You're doing so well. I'm super proud of you, and I'll see you on Thursday.